the Dead Chicken Cooking channel. I haven't been doing any videos lately, so I just thought that I would do one today on a very simple thing that I make a lot. We're having pancakes for supper tonight, and this is a really old pancake recipe from a cookbook that I stole from my mom years ago. It was a Purity Flour cookbook. They don't even make Purity Flour anymore. But anyways, so I'm just going to get going on this, and the recipe's already there. I usually triple the recipe because I have some people that eat unlimited amounts of pancakes, and so I make a lot. And if there's some left over, they're always good cold, as I said in the recipe. So here we go. We're going to start with the measuring. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour. Now if you multiply that by 2, it becomes 3 cups of flour. And if you multiply it by 3, it becomes 4.5. So I'm going to measure out the 4.5 cups of flour into my big bowl here. And our half here. And I always level it off with the knife to keep it so you don't have too much flour. And then it calls for also 3 tablespoons of sugar, or I mean 2 per, so I put in 2 times 3 is 6 because I'm tripling it. So there's a 4, 5, and 6. In the meantime, I'm cooking sausages in the background.
So that's what that sizzling is.
Sizzling sausages. Now, because it's 3 teaspoons of baking powder in the recipe, that becomes 9 when you triple it, of course. And I kind of carefully put it on so I don't lose count. There's 5, 6,
and
7, 8, 9. I tried this once with some organic baking powder that I got during the COVID when we couldn't get supplies, and it was just really bad. Now it's a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, so that becomes 1.5 with this. There we are. And then I just take a big tablespoon and mix all the dry ingredients together like that. There we go. All well mixed. And excuse me for a minute, I got to turn my sausages. Alright, so that was the dry ingredients. Now for the eggs and milk. So that becomes 3 eggs in my case because it was 1 egg for the regular amount. So I'm going to just do this with the 3 eggs. And this that I'm mixing the liquid ingredients in is actually 8-cup measuring cup. And so we need the 3 eggs and 1 3/4 cups of milk. So if you were to triple that, it would actually become just a little under 6 cups of milk. And I usually add a lot more milk than they say because the batter is too thick. So I'll mix up the egg first and then I add the milk. Okay. And just mix it until it's nice and bubbly and kind of fluffy looking, if eggs can be fluffy. And 1 3/4 times 2 is, I think, 3 1/2. And then another, yeah, so another 1 3/4 on top of that is like 5 1/4, but I usually put in more milk than that because it comes out too thick if I put it in that way. So right now I'm just going to add the milk. I got 1 cup of eggs, so I can put it up to about 6 cups of milk. I need a little bit more, that's not quite enough.
So to the fridge.
To the fridge.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
And to find the milk is another thing in our fridge.
There's the gel that I made. I made on my own channel. It's called Nash's Card Collection if you're interested. But back to dead chicken.
Back to dead chicken. That's me. I'm a dead chicken. Okay, so that's our milk, and then it calls for 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And I happen to know that 1/4 cup is 4 tablespoons. So I use this. This is faster than measuring it out by the spoons. And I keep that sometimes to make the pancakes, but in this case I usually make them a little bit bigger. That's 1/4 cup. And while this is being done, the final moments of it, I'm going to turn my pancake pan on to heat up. I usually put a timer on just so I don't overheat the pan when it's got nothing in it. And these are the sausages that are cooking for our supper. So I just got to get them turned over again. And the oven on, just to keep these warm once they're cooked. I usually keep it at about 170, which takes quite a long time to come down to that. Okay.
Now the next thing is
2 more tablespoons of the cooking oil, because I only put in 4 and it calls for 6. And they say you can use melted shortening if you like, but who's going to go through that much trouble when you got cooking oil? It's much easier. So there we go. We got our milk and eggs all ready to go into the other, and then we're ready to make pancakes.
Then we just add our wet ingredients to the dry ingredients.
That's right. And then we give it a really good mix with the beaters.
Satisfying.
And it's a lot of batter, and it looks like I'm cooking for an army.
Well, because we are an army.
And it's really only 3 people who eat a lot of pancakes. I eat about maybe 3 or 4 of these if I'm lucky. I make them big though. There, you gotta mix it all in. And that indicates that my frying pan is warm. So are you able to go over there and turn it down for me to halfway about?
Okay, YouTube's coming with me. Let's go. Turn. Halfway. So just grab this knob and point it straight down with this one. Over here with the one, this is the sausage one. We have two sides. One's higher, like full burn, and half burner, I guess. I'm not totally sure, but it's on there. Just taking a spatula.
Cleaning the sides of the bowl, but it's, oh goodness, we just knocked the beater over while we were doing that. Oh, we're trying to
Satisfying.
And I think it's all good. We don't need to really beat it more. You don't have to overbeat the pancake batter, really.
Ooh.
Hi, we've just come back here and we're just going to demonstrate how you cook pancakes. So that you have to have your frying pan pretty warm. And I'm just spreading that around like that. It's a little bit much for the oil. But they have to be hot, otherwise it's almost impossible to cook them. And now, see, that's how it should be. It should sizzle the minute you hit the pan. There we go. And I usually just use the measuring cups that I was cooking with to pour the batter out into the pans. And this is pretty well how we do it. And for me, it's just a long progression of cooking pancakes and feeding everybody. And then I usually eat last after I make a whole bunch ahead. Like I use up all the batter and I put it in the oven to keep warm. And then we usually have leftovers with this amount of batter, but it's still good. Now, if Nash will focus in on these, you can see how they're bubbling so nicely. That's when you know that it's time to turn them over. Wow! And that becomes, now I got the temperature just right. That's exactly how they should work. And that is everything for today for our pancake making recipe. So thanks for tuning in and watching us. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. Thank you very much for joining us today.